Hey everybody, welcome to another segment in the VR Funhouse modding Twitch streams. Um, Last week we talked about Flex. Got to show you guys a little bit about how to, do soft bodies and do some cloth and stuff like that. Hopefully you guys found that entertaining as I did. This week we're going to be talking about Flow. So I'll be going over some of the more exciting things about Flow. Flow is our fire simulation, as we said. I'm going to show you how to set up something basic, kind of a basic mod that might be interesting for you guys to use when it comes to using Flow and the basics of how to just get your first emitter going. Flow is going to be it is a super awesome technology. Real-time volumetric fire is something that I think a lot of us have been striving for in real time for quite some time. Obviously, something we've been doing in offline for a while. I think it's an easy technology to use, and it's a hard technology to master, as it is going to be deeply rooted in simulation. So, just to start us off, as I always do, I want to point you guys to this particular website. The VR Funhouse mod kit page. It's going to be developer.nvidia.com/VR Funhouse mod kit with a bunch of dashes. Where we're going to go to is start modding with VR Funhouse. In particular, today is going to be under Flow and Flow usage in UE4. And like I said, we do have this page here, which is kind of like a handy dandy, just specifically kind of some use case issues we ran into with Funhouse. But if you want a little bit more detail, this is the artist tool guide to Flow specifically. It talks about kind of the in-depth parameters. As you can see, we've got a lot of parameters again to kind of go over. And this will actually give you some information about all of this. We're only going to cover some specific parameters today that I think are most relevant to what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and let's dive in. So again, Epic Game Launcher. I've got my mod kit running. I'm going to pull it up. So Flow, you're going to actually be seeing Flow in the bow and arrow test, which is our archery game. We use it for the cauldron on your left, which has fire here, and we also use it for the arrows to light up the planks on fire. One thing that is important, I mentioned this last stream, we'll go ahead and start from the beginning here, is that, if I go to my viewport, we use the shape of this to be the emitter. So the emitter itself does not have any sort of shape or any sort of thing, place in space or anything like that. It bases it all on a common mesh that is in a blueprint. So this one's a square, and we can do spheres in VR Funhouse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through just creating a basic emitter and all the components that you need. Luckily, for you guys out there, let me go over here. We in the Flow usage in VR Funhouse, we do walk you through the 1 to 8 steps needed to get a Flow asset in the game. So I'm going to start. What I want to end up with is a mod today that is related to the basketball game. I really want like flaming basketballs. So I'm going to walk us through step by step to kind of get there. So first thing I want to do, I'm going to pull my levels up here. I want to double click my basketball game, make sure that's what I'm working in. Then I'm going to go into my top level blueprint. I've already done this. Sorry, I cheated. But we did this in the last few streams. We try to find set up level streaming. It's this guy right here, set current level stream basketball base 2. And I also made sure we loaded in this particular light stream. So let me hit play. Prove that make sure we got my hands. We're all set up here. I put my headset over here this time in kind of a convenient location for me. Woo, with my hand. So we'll go ahead. We're in the right spot we want. Let's go ahead. I'm going to close this out so this isn't in our view. So the first thing we need to do is make a grid. What a grid is this is our simulation space. This is where actually the flow simulation takes place. So you need to make sure that no matter what level you have to have a grid. In the bow level, we do some special stuff that you can check in the level blueprint to make sure that we load different grids based on your settings. In this particular example, I am literally just going to go through and show you guys just a setup with just one grid. So I am going to search my folders real quick for a grid asset. These are the ones that are going to exist already. Fireball Grid 1 is the grid we use for the medium setting in Fire Archer. So that'll be the setting that we have set up for the GTX 1080. I'm going to double click on this and show you just a couple of the parameters here. Hopefully we can see this. The grid cell size defines kind of the resolution of the simulation. The bigger this is, the more coarse the simulation and the faster the simulation. I'll be able to show you guys some debug visualization to kind of show you what these cells are and what they mean. But you're going to set these two things right off the bat. The grid cell size and the virtual grid dimension. Virtual grid dimension is just like how big in space is this grid, this simulation grid that I can work in. And then the grid cell size kind of chops it up within there. We have obviously a lot of things about like how the fluid sim should work. We've got damping. We've got our different velocity multipliers, vorticity, McCormick correction. Go ahead and grab out your fluid dynamics book to figure out what the heck that means. Our combustion settings and some of our render settings. If you were already we'll show you how to do this later, but your coloring of your flow of your fire is set in the grid. So if you're already like, man, how do I make a different color of just the Fire Archer? That is in here. So first off, we need a grid. Today, I'm just going to use this grid because I know it's a good grid that'll work for me. So I'm going to drag it into the level. And you'll actually see it does this sort of bounding box. This is our simulation space. And I've got it encompassing my entire area. So I know that right now I'm going to get all this. Zoom back down. The next thing I will need, and again we can follow this basically step by step, is we are going to need to actually create an emitter. So this is the grid. Next step is create an emitter. So I'm going to make ourselves a handy dandy new folder again. New folder, and it's going to be flow sim tests. Sounds like a great folder name. And what I'm going to want to do is any flow emitter needs to be part of a blueprint actor. So I'm going to add new. I'm going to do new blueprint class actor, and I'm going to say basic emitter test. We're going to open this up. I'm going to add I want my emitter to be a sphere. Like I said, I have two options in VR Funhouse. I have the option to have an emitter be a sphere or a box. I want it to be a sphere. So boom, I just made a sphere. I'm going to make that my root. Got my big sphere here. The one thing I have to set on this is the collision. So I want the collision, let me pull this over, to be set to custom. I'm gonna have my big list of stuff here. I want to hit ignore for everything and just overlap for flow. So now my sphere is set up, and my next step is add a new component. I want to add a flow emitter. Compile that, save that. Now if we drop it in the level, oh boy, it's a big one. All right, everybody, cross your fingers. Ah, we've got fire. That's it. Now I have an emitter that is spawning fire from it. So basically, what this emitter is injecting fuel into the simulation. This is just a point in space that has fuel. Fuel would be gasoline. Wood is a fuel, for instance. So those targets, we consider that the fuel. And we can burn up through that emitter. So when we shoot the arrows, right, we hit the corner, and that starts the ignition, and it flows throughout the simulation up the boards, etc. Now, this is obviously pretty big, so you're like, man. So all this stuff luckily works kind of how you would hope. Let me pull up my details tab because I did not have one active. And scroll down here. You need to make sure that this sphere is kind of uniformly scaled. Let's make it something a little bit more reasonable for our future tests here. If I hit play, you'll now see I've got a much smaller flame. Let me reorient my camera here. Much smaller flame to deal with. Pull this a little closer. Now, one nice thing about all this is that you can do live tuning for this. We set up our grid to kind of simulate our air. All right, so that all those basic high level parameters of like what is the air that we're working in is in the grid. I'm not going to get too in detailed about that right now. That is really something that I recommend you kind of look at the documentation and understand what each one of those things means. Right now, we've got a pretty good. The ones we have in there right now are pretty good for fire. You can do some minor variations if you want to do like cold smoke, etc. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you the emitter properties first. So let me pull that up there right here. If you actually are in your details tab, you've got the basic emitter test itself, which is the blueprint actor. Sphere is that inherited sphere that we placed in there, and then actually here's our flow emitter. You can edit these, in the blueprint here wherever you want, but we're going to go ahead and edit them here. So we have fuel, which can do exactly what you think, right? So it's at 1.0 right now. Let's go ahead and pump it up to 10. Show you what that looks like. Now we have a much more vibrant simulation there. We have, I'm giving you guys kind of the important ones first. We have couple rate. What couple rate does is going to help you how quickly those kind of grids will move to your value. So if you have a fast moving object, you want your couple rate to increase. With the bow and arrow, for like the arrow, we actually, in Blueprint, we change couple rate based on the velocity of the arrow, right? So the faster the arrow goes, the bigger the couple rate, meaning the more the fire kind of sticks. And we'll tweak and tune this when I start putting them on the basketballs. You'll see that without a couple rate, the fire kind of goes out as it goes down the ramp. You increase the couple rate, now the fire will stick with it. Now I'm going to show you guys real quick how to kind of live tune this. I'm going to grab this details tab, and I'm actually going to have to drag it off screen right now. And apparently I drug it so far off screen I lost it. I can't unfortunately show you guys both screens, but I do have just my details panel kind of off to the side here. If you hit play, and I'm going to actually Alt-Tab, bring my editor up, make sure I click on the emitter here. The game is still going, as you can see. It's right here. And now actually I have my details panel, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start messing with fuel. I'm going to try to keep this maybe like right here and see if you guys can see this. No, that's not going to quite work. But we can do it this way. I can bump this number to 50. I can take this number. I just bumped it up to 50. And actually, like I said, if you have multiple monitors, you'll be able to see this all kind of at the same time. You can see I've got like this now, this rolling massive flame. So I have this little ball here is just shooting out, just gobs and gobs of fuel. we can go over here. We can take it down to 0.2, and we should have almost no fuel rolling out of this. You actually saw the fuel dissipate. So this is kind of stuff you can do, right? You can actually have blueprints that are going to, and if I sit here and do this, for instance, let's just move it around a bit and come over, you'll actually, I wonder what's a good way to show you guys that. I can actually just crank that up to, let's crank it up to 500 for a second, and then bring it down to 0. I should see just a, yeah, like this massive plume that just died out. So that's a nice thing. This is animatable. That's basically what I'm trying to get at, right? You could have a flamethrower, for instance, that where you manually on a hose, you crank that fuel value up and down, and you should get more and more fire, less and less fire, etc. Some other stuff we can kind of do here is, I'm going to turn my fuel back up to, let's go with like 4. We do have velocities we can add. So if we want to take a look at what 4 looks like as a baseline, it's kind of a simple, it's barely moving. Let me recenter this for everybody real quick. It's kind of barely moving there. I'll pull this over to the side so you guys can still keep seeing it update. I'm going to increase this linear velocity to say 200. Actually, I'm going to have to go a lot higher than that. And you'll actually see it's starting to shoot up a bit more. If I added more fuel to the fire, let's go up to 20 so I can really see something going here. You'll see as I reduce that value, it'll do less and less. There you go. I just went up to big value. Now see it's kind of pushing up really hard. Go down to 0 and it'll calm down again. Obviously, since this flame is pushing, right? We have this hot air rising, all this. No matter what, it's going to go up. But you do have this ability to kind of artificially put some pressure into that emitter. And now it's kind of more, like a real flaming furnace. It's really going. It's really energetic. It's got a lot of fun there. Let's, like I said in a previous meeting, or a previous call, I love to just max out values and see where my maximum is. Eventually, I kind of blow it out, right? You see, I got too high, and I kind of blew the simulation out. Looks like 100,000 is maybe the maximum this particular amount of fuel can handle before it kind of gets blown out. So this is a way to make it, like I said, look like a real, like a fuel fire, right? Like a natural gas fire. It's pressurized fluid that's pushing this out. Whereas if we're kind of at a 0 value, it's more of a kind of a static fuel-based fire. So if this is a gasoline barrel that's on fire, or perhaps just a really well lit piece of wood. So that's kind of the benefits of that linear velocity, positive velocity. Next to kind of talk about would be we would like to talk about temperature mildly. This is kind of the target temperature you're going to want to get your fire to. Sorry, I'll click on this so it still looks pretty. Yay! The temperature is an input to the color map, and it also influences kind of how buoyant the fluid is and kind of how much it will combust. So higher temperatures, kind of like a cleaner combustion. Like I said, a lot of this stuff is real fluid dynamics based, but I'll go ahead and show you what some of these parameters kind of look like. So again, I'll move this over here. Get that into a nice half space. So let me go ahead and crank temperature up here. This is going to be based in the grid stuff here. We're actually going to want to use this when it comes to our mapping. So right now, it's actually not going to do anything, but we're going to go to the grid. So I'm going to have to pull out of this, unfortunately. And go to our grid asset we placed. So let's go ahead and let me pull this up so we can actually see this. So many things. And we're going to find it in our generic browser, open this up. I want to talk to you guys real quick about the color map. Again, I think I'm going to be able to live tune this for you guys. Let me just make sure I get my screens all set up here. We actually have this color curve, which is going to be how you define what your fire looks like. You can actually see here on the hot side, you know, the super hot right now is yellow, and we kind of have this ramp down to black. If we were on the cool side, so if our actual emitter was cold, so let me relaunch the level here. Got it going there. Pull this over, check this color map out. If we were going cold, you know, and actually reducing temperature, we could go for more of a blue. But this is kind of the basic color curve map editor for UE4. So you have alpha values. I'm going to have to make this guy a little bit more energetic because I want you guys to see kind of a broader scale of colors. So again, I'm going to go to my basic emitter. I'm going to pull up its details emitter. Go up to 50 fuel or so. So I really get it's a bit too big. I'll do 30. I want something to mostly cover the screen here and have a nice gradient. 15 perhaps. 20 looks pretty good. There we go. So we obviously have our alpha value. You'll see here, like I said, temperature set to 2. So that's kind of our target temperature, and that's going to be the kind of the scale we work in. You can do things like bump the value alpha here. We could make the whole thing pretty opaque by drowning. Ooh, too much. You actually see here we can actually make it fairly translucent of a fire here. We can do all sorts of fun things with curves. Since you actually, the nice thing about the Epic color map editors, you're actually getting a transparency gradient down here. Let's go ahead and change maybe even the color of the fire. Go to more of a, I think I kind of would, let's go for like a bright green. And we can actually go maybe more blue towards the center. I'm making a really ugly fire, I apologize. But this is kind of the stuff you can do, right? You can sit here and maybe make this a green noxious gas. Let's say that. Something out of like Batman or something like that. So we can sit here, we can pull the opacity down. I don't know, this is like the Joker fire, right? Or Joker smoke. Now we have kind of this clear green smoky thing that's coming off. You know what? Actually, maybe this is what the balls will be. They won't be on fire. Maybe they'll have this. I don't know. They'll be really stinky because now I've got something that looks like you would use for something that looked like a smelly piece of trash. So that's the color map. That's kind of where you're going to sit there and change and tweak your colors. Your immediate question is going to be, well, what if I want to have a green fire and a yellow fire and stuff like that? How you would kind of do that is through your temperature curves. So, if you wanted a cold color, we can actually have our emitter emit at a cold temperature. And then it would be at that different color gradient. Maybe we'd have some fires be hotter than the others. Now, those colors could swap back and forth, though. So at this time, in the flow integration into VR Funhouse, you are limited to a single material. So that is just a current limitation, which we plan on alleviating in future flow releases. As it sits right now, this is the only place flow exists, by the way, is in VR Funhouse. We will announce generic UE4 integrations at a later date. I'd expect, just keep your ears out at any of the major conferences for when that hits. Multi-material is going to be coming. So eventually we'll be able to have green, red, blue, purple, all in the same area. with the same parameters. It's just that as it sits right now, you're gonna have two choices. You're gonna have the hot side and the cold side, and those are the only colors you're gonna be able to work with. All right, so let's go to the next phase of my grand plan here, which was, technically great balls of fire here. But now I made them green, so now it's gonna be great green balls of fire. So what I want to do is, in the meantime, I'm just going to, put these pretty much in the same spot. All those level designers out there are like, you're doing this so the hard way. I'm just going to duplicate it a couple times. Woo! 3 looks pretty good. You also could actually just modify the basketball blueprint and put these in there. That'd be another option. I'm going to keep them separate for right now. So I know this is 5. Going to take my emitter, do an attach. I think you're seeing the pattern here, but basically what I'm doing is this is 4 and 5. I'm directly attaching these, so what's going to happen is my my fire emitters are going to be now attached, so they're going to roll with the bells. And what I should have, everybody cross your fingers, what I should have is I should end up having 5 balls that are full of green smoke. There we go. So now I've got these green stinky basketballs. Let's make this a little prettier real quick. So like we said, the big things to kind of deal with here is that's probably too much fire. So let's go ahead and edit those values. Would have been a smart idea for me to do this first, or all the way up in the blueprint instead of instance it. So, but I'm just going to get one of them right for right now and pretend I didn't make that little faux pas. So I'm going to take it down to probably fuel 4. Couple rate, like I said, this is important because those balls are going to be moving. So we're going to do about 2, and that'll make it so the fire really stays attached. And I'm going to get a better fire map because that was just, there is no better way to say it, but I made an incredibly garbage fire map. I'm probably going to go with, let's go ahead and live edit that again. I don't know, one of my favorite things back in the day was NBA Jam, and when you're on fire, that you were literally on fire. So let's go ahead, and I might make this kind of a quick and smoky black. I think I'm editing there. Ooh boy, that is some serious smoke. Let's get my red up. Let's get everything up at the same pace. I'm going to move these down the temperature curve. And then I kind of want a black, honestly, to kind of happen here. Let's see if I got it. Well, I'm apparently a terrible editor of curves. So we're just going to hope that I can eventually get here to the right value. Apologies, your hair vibrates. This is why I was not allowed to edit the fire in VR Funhouse. We had another VFX artist who's apparently better at color curves than me, but I actually ended up with something that's even more interesting. I actually kind of really like this. It's like a real smoky thing, like they're kind of in this after ember look. And we can do stuff to even have that be a little bit more transparent. You have something on the grid. There's multiple places you can do this. There's actually a value on the grid, which is this render alpha scale, which lets you kind of do a full. Now, you should have seen that it actually changed how kind of the entire alpha was for the whole thing. This is one of those nice, easy parameters to let you do a big, massive visual change without going through and tweaking all the little color graphs. That's exactly what that's there for. Now it's kind of this smoky, sauna balls. Let's take that down to 0.02. You'll also, there's a lot of other parameters. There's one more thing I kind of want to tell you guys. This was kind of the basics of editing this. I totally bombed the color map, so I'll have to apologize for that. You play it around. I'm sure you guys can do better color maps than I can. But one thing I kind of want to talk about was visualizing some of this. There is 2 debugs that I think will be useful. If you hit the tilde key and just do flow viz, whoa, what is happening? This is our trippy psychedelic debug for the flow. These little boxes are going to be where the simulation is happening. Hopefully you guys can see those little wireframes. I'm going to go ahead and get ourselves back down to 1 emitter. So this is a little less chaotic. I'm going to, let's see, it's in the middle. There you go. Now it's a little easier to see. You actually see those boxes. They're allocating as this fire moves. So that's the only place the simulation is happening. All this empty space, there's no simulation, which is a big improvement over previous grid-based solutions. Because previous grid-based solutions, all this empty air would still be simulating, which is total waste. This is where we get a lot of efficiencies with flow, is kind of this grid-based simulation. What you're looking at we have a couple different render modes. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off this particular flow viz. I'm going to pull up our different render modes. So we're doing a lot of shuffling of screens here today. We actually have this option on the right here. It's called render modes. You can actually go through these. This is that visualization we had before. I believe this is the temperature visualization. We also have another one for velocity, which is kind of like you'll see all the normals for which way everything is curling and stuff like that. There's different render modes. Actually, no. So this is temperature. This is our temperature one. Is 2. So you can actually see, where the hotter part of the fire is. Actually, this might be slightly underneath. My head might be slightly in the way, but you can see the hotter to colder part of the fire. You get your yellow where it's hot, and then your red where it's cool. So if you're having some issues kind of understanding what is happening, we do have all these simulations. See, now that is a better color gradient than what I just totally failed at creating. It's just this simple visualization. So congrats to me for not being able to make a simple color gradient. But hey, I still got some fun light smoke, and I'm pretty happy with it. So that is flow in a nutshell. So just to recap, there are 2 main components, right? We have our grid. That's where our simulation space is. You have to have it in your level. Get it in the same level, like the same sub-level as your emitters if you can. I believe that if they're in different sub-levels, or maybe you accidentally place in the wrong sub-level, you're just not going to get what you're looking for. So get those in the same sub-level if you can. As long as they're there, they'll be simulating together. You have your emitter, like I said, which is based on the shape. So the bigger the shape, we've got this guy in here. If I scaled him up uniformly, we will get a bigger smoke. That is where our fuel is emitting from, is the giant ball. And the parameter, and this all has to do in a blueprint. So again, I love the fact that this particular document was written this way. It just takes you step by step of all the components you need to do to get yourself up and running in there. Please look at the documentation. Again, hit us up on the forums if you have any specific questions. Flow is hopefully something you guys are interested in. We absolutely love Flow. I think it's something we're going to be using a lot in the future, and it's continually improving. So go out there, have fun, light some stuff on fire, be a pyro. That's I think that's everybody's secret dream. hit us up on the forums. We'll do what we can to answer our questions as fast as we can on there. And this is our last scheduled broadcast at this point. If there's anything specific you guys are looking for or wanting, feel free to reach out to us on those forums, and we can set up another Twitch cast or Twitch stream to kind of go over anything else that may be missing. And we'll be planning on doing more of these in the future for Funhouse, for general GameWorks stuff if we can. So stay tuned, and thanks for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.